Oh, good afternoon and Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas, mate. Nice to see you. Good. Here we are again.
I mean, I can't believe the weather today. Actually,
It's fabulous, isn't it?
beautiful after yesterday.
Chilly,
it was right. Well, yeah, a bit chilly. What do you think of the old attire?
Lovely, very festive.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, really, really good.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Crimekitchen. I'm Andy.
I'm Dave.
Okay, and we're going to cook some food for you today, some paella. We're going to talk about my life in the police, and Dave's going to talk.
I'm going to talk about some of my life in the construction industry, mainly building roads and maintaining roads around the world. So that's what we're all about. With Crimekitchen, I'm going to talk about a specific murder, a triple murder, a serial killer. As we go through our presentation and through our cooking, so we'll put the stuff on and we can get talking. Then can't we? Get talking. Talk away as we go. Just let it flow and whatever.
So everybody, we're going to do paella, which I love, and Dave started to.
I'm going to just grab us a beer, mate.
Oh, that'd be great. Yes, please. Yeah. Festive beer. So just here's ingredients. We've got some chicken. I've used chicken thighs. On the bone, skinned, trimmed a little bit. I use it on the bone because it keeps the meat nice and moist, but you can use whatever. Some chorizo, some onion, French beans trimmed, and some peas, obviously paella rice, some paprika, some garlic, and some stock. I've used chicken stock today. You can use fish. And this one, when I cook it, sometimes I also do mussels and prawns with it right at the end, but I'll show you what I do. We're not doing that today because some people don't like mussels, or maybe allergic to mussels or shellfish, so we're just doing that, the basic chicken and chorizo today. Get the pan nice and hot. We're just going to sear these off, just coat them for a minute. While my able assistant gets the refreshments. There are other beers available. It's my little
tip.
Take
the most important thing today.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.
There you go. I'm going to just have mine out of the bottle because it's the way I like it.
Cheers.
Merry Christmas to you.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Of course not. First today. So we're just going to blow it off, and you'll see, and once we get it going we can talk a bit more about, well, we're going to talk about a triple murder, serial killer. It was not long ago, back in November in 2000.
Right on cue, siren in the background.
Oh yeah, very good. Yeah, I'm going to. The offender, his name's Philip Smith. It's nothing you can't find in the public domain. It's out there. I'm not going to mention any victims' names. I think that'd be wrong to do. But Philip Smith was from Birmingham, massive man, 6'5", probably 20 plus stone, a really big, powerful man. And where we get involved from West Mercer point of view, because there was one murder in West Mercer in Worcestershire and two others in Birmingham, or West Midlands police area. So it was a Sunday morning. It was actually Remembrance Day, and it had got known as Remembrance Day, Poppy Day murders. And a dog walker was out early hours of the morning, I don't know, 7:30, 8 o'clock, and comes across a really, really bad, mutilated body. It's been left indistinguishable, really, the features. It was really horrendous, and that's what alerted us, and that's what started everything off for West Mercia. So everybody goes out, massive crime scene.
Just ask a question now.
Yeah.
Like, so when does the police or whoever offer any support to those people, like the people that found that body? Because I mean that would have been extremely distressing, I would imagine.
Yeah, but I think even more so now. Definitely then, the person, and it did affect him.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. He really was poorly after. So he did have support. and offered counsel, and it's got better now. It really has. And our family liaison officers, who the FLOs look after the families, the victim's family, or any other people that need looking after and support, and referring to people. So it's got better, But you're right, Dave. It's a good point, because that will never go away. And
so I think it's one of those things. It's like you almost forget about the people that it actually affects outside of the immediate incident, as it were, or the immediate family that's affected.
Yes,
but there's a whole host of people that's affected by things like this.
And the community as well, because somebody's a victim or witness or just get to read about it. When somebody's been killed, murdered, it's quite frightening for the community, and that's what all the community officers and the support officers try and give that reassurance to the community. But that's a good point. So massive crime scene, a lot of people involved, but the first thing is we've got to identify this lady. We don't know who she is, we don't know anything about her, and so we can't even tell family until, So so this is the tritzer going in now, just going to blend the tritzer off. So one of the things we're going to do is identify it, and that's a major thing. Unless people have been reported missing, and which is usually link up the person to the missing person report, but this is that we haven't got a person missing. Not in our force area that fitted this lady's description.
Yeah. So when you get an incident like that come into incident room, I'll say that for want of a better word.
Yeah, it is incident room. Yeah.
But I'm assuming there's some standard procedures if that has to kick into play. I don't imagine it's just a random. Who's going to deal with this sort of thing. It's
no, you're right, Dave.
Systems and processes.
Yeah, it is, and you've got to have a process. You've got to have a system that. So you've got all your teams, and certain teams will be allocated to certain actions, and then the first big actions was the missing person action. So the whole team would be designated to try and find out who that person is. And we as I said, we didn't have it in our force area. Then we sort of the boundaries go out and further, trying to, and you're just hoping that somebody will ring in the end and to tell us who it may be.
And the other thing I was going to ask, and I'm sure lots of people know, it's like the press, the media are all over these sort of things very quickly, aren't they? And particularly in today's world with the social media, which it depends on your point of view. I'm a bit sceptical about some of the social media stuff, but how do you manage that? Because it's whilst you're trying to investigate a serious crime, you're trying to look after the family. You've got your family liaison officers doing some of that work, but keeping the media off your back. Really,
it is. Well, you need the media. They're part, and of course they're there to report, and rightly so, because people want to know, and they are desperate for information.
Yeah.
And so it's you have massive sort of media strategies. It's important that they are involved or kept involved in the loop, because they're going to help us ultimately.
Well, that's what I was going to ask actually. Is like there's got to be a balance to it, where the media and the police work together because it does actually help the situation. However, I can also imagine a situation where it could be very difficult to work very closely with the media, because there must be certain information that you just can't afford to let get out.
No, you can't. For the families now. This is a classic example. We didn't know who this person was, so the last thing you want is the press putting massive things out over, saying this has happened and this is over, and people going, oh, that could be so. You try and get ahead of it, and you can't always do it, because the press, obviously, they're keen for information. You've got to work with the press really, and I think. My experience is that actually, if you frank with them and honest with them and say, look, I'm not telling you that because you can't know that, you can't print that, we don't need to print that, or maybe.
Yeah.
And that's a working relationship, isn't it? And there is stories where it's gone horribly wrong.
Yeah,
without a doubt. But yeah, in this,
well, maybe we can talk about some of those in some future
Yes,
episodes.
yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I mean, because I think it, you know, I think the media is great. You know, don't get me wrong. I'm not having a downer on the media, but I do believe that it's got excessively powerful over the years.
Oh, massive.
And sometimes for the good, but sometimes not necessarily all for the good.
I agree. Just on the chicken, just and the chorizo stuff. There's a nice oil in there now. Nice chorizo oil. Just going to put the onions in. I hope that doesn't sit too strong on the microphone.
I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm looking forward to the commercial break where we can dig into some of this.
yeah. We want me to talk about chopping beans up our favourite. We don't want to do the beans, do we?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you prepared that before I turned up this morning. So well
Got garlic, and I do like garlic, so
yeah, so do I.
So you know, it's about, if you want to get cloves, 4 cloves, 5 cloves maybe. But when we cheat, then we get the stuff out the tubes. But garlic's garlic.
So just coming back to the actual story, as it were. You've got a dog walker. He's found the body.
Yeah.
Ultimately, when you did find the culprit to this, you identified who he was and things like that. But just talk us through a little bit about the process that you had to go through to get to ultimately finding the culprit.
Well, yeah. So first we have to identify the victim, and but what happened with this in this case is that we have this horrendous murder, and we have a home office pathology. A home office pathologist comes out and does the post-mortem. It's a really complicated, and post-mortems are complicated and intricate anyway, but it has to be a home office pathologist, and he went through, and we still don't know who this. We can't even age this lady because she has been quite badly mutilated. The pathologist asks for an odontologist, a forensic odontologist, his teeth and mouth, to come over because there was extensive injuries to the face. And he came over and to the post-mortem, and he went, I've been to another one similar to this in Birmingham. And going back to the press now, this is where the press do like to link things very quickly.
Yeah.
And
well, I'm guessing, sorry for interrupting, but I'm guessing, a lot of people are a bit like me. I think I know the answer before you've gone through all the and sometimes I'm right and sometimes I'm not, and I guess that's the situation there. They do, some press do like to sensationalise things, and I understand why. Anyway, so the forensic odontologist thought, I've been to another post-mortem early on today in Birmingham. And then we started to look at that murder as well. And what happened was Philip Smith has murdered, and I'll go into the circumstances around that, but he's murdered her and then gone back to Birmingham. And on the way back, he's either hit deliberately or whatever accidentally, he's run into another lady, and he's took her away from the scene where he's hit her with his car. She's still walking, as we think, and then led her into some area land in Birmingham off the A38, and he's murders her as well. And again, really horrendous injuries. So we now got police forces joining up and linking, and senior officers talking, and this is getting bigger and bigger. And then as a result of that, a third murder, which was about 3 days before, is linked on again because of their injuries and the modus operandi. So we've now got potentially 3 linked. But it's very easy because you wouldn't want to go, we've got a serial killer on the loose here, because that is going to really scare everybody. And you can see now the priorities are so big. I think at one stage there's at least 300 plus officers and support staff working on these 3 murders. So what we had was West Mercia, 1 murder, 2 in Birmingham. So each had its own operation, and then they all linked together up here. So you had it was all joined up, and it was a fantastic job. Now Philip Smith was a gopher, really, a bit of an uneducated man, a big man, as I said. So we eventually identified our victim,
And then, of course, then you then try and track her back her movements, and she'd gone out that night. And Philip Smith was basically an illegal taxi driver. He used to taxi cab people around. I think they must have known each other from probably going to the same pub or something like that. And he'd offered to give her a lift.
Right. Okay. So they did actually know.
We believe there was not a. We believe they were aware of each other from probably the same pub. Yeah. I mean, she probably gave him. They drank in the same pub, but. And anyway, he'd taken her out to a club in Birmingham, and we know there was some altercation when they came out of the club. We witnessed it, we could see it. So we then we identify him, we see a man, so we think we want to speak to him. We identify who that may be, and then things are moving really, really quickly now. Probably about 4 or 5 days, we're getting through it because there's loads of information coming in. You can imagine that the incident room, because it has gone big on the press roll, just get me rice now, chuck me rice in.
Yeah.
And then just get the rice and just soak in these oils, this nice chicken and chorizo oils and that, and some paprika in there.
When you, I've always wanted to know this actually. When two forces come together and work on a big case as this turned out to be, does that work really? Does it work well within the police? Do you find much egos going on? Do you find? Because I'm guessing, and please do correct me if I'm wrong here, but most industries have the good and bad sides to them, and we get good people, good hard-working people, and we also get lazy people.
Oh yeah,
and I'm imagining that's probably no different in your industry. It's certainly relevant in my industry.
Yeah, you're right. Beans and peas in there, just frozen peas, and the beans are fresh actually. Yeah, there is. I'm always very fortunate. I mean, most of my career was in the CID, very major crime, and I work with some really, really good detectives, fantastic people. But there's good and not so good, as you say, in every industry, and I was just fortunate to work with some really good teams, really.
Yeah, and I would echo that in mine as well. I mean, I was very lucky with the people that I personally worked with. But you do hear different stories, as they're both big industries, big organisations and things like that. So I just wanted to ask the question really of I mean,
it was a big job
because when it's so big like that, and you've got two forces, and whilst I'm sure by and large the procedures are the same across the forces, I bet there's some little things where slightly different. Things do. And people, we're all human beings. People do things in a quite different way.
You're absolutely right. And different forces do it slightly different because it's just the way it is. Like in different hospitals and different whatever your industry, will do it. Do a certain procedure slightly different. So you have to work together. Just putting the chicken back in there on top of this. The rice and beans, that's all soaked in. Just place it there in there. And you have to go. You have to bridge that gap sometimes. Different processes, different systems. But I mean, this particular, it was. I mean, it's horrible to say, isn't it? But detectives do like dealing with murders, and I don't know what or any major crime really. It is. I suppose you get some more emotion, some more passion that you've got. It's good to work on non-fatal major crime, but people expect the best, expect things to be done, and lots of resources and lots of money is always chucked at murder, and what they say, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, it is, and that's what the public would expect.
Yes.
Certainly what I would expect.
Yes. Get my hands in here. Well, it's just putting all the back in there. Yeah, and eventually he was identified, Philip Smith, and he was arrested from his house. Good operation. He'd actually kept souvenirs from the people, like clothes and that from the victims, and which was a bit, daunting, really, I suppose.
Yeah, I know. It's true. Yeah,
It's just, Anyway, he came back, and he came back to West Mercer. We decided to start the process off, you've got to, here's a man in custody for 3 murders now. Excuse me, just get me stock. This is just, you can use fish stock, especially if you're using mussels, but if it's just, I'll just use a chicken stock. I always make a bit more, because sometimes the paella rice soaks up more and sometimes it doesn't, so I always like to leave myself a bit so I can have a...
Just keep it moist.
Yeah. So it's just going to boil away, simmer away now, and we'll probably be eating it on the next show, but we'll see how it goes. That's good. So we came back to West Mercia, and I interviewed him with a colleague for 3 days, and he never admitted the murders, but what we were able to do is he gave us some where we believed he'd been and that type of thing, and we were able to break that story down quite well. Forensically, we were able to prove that there was DNA on his body, on his shoes, and that from the 3 victims, and he was charged with those murders, and we had a trial because he went not guilty, believe it or not. I suppose not many murderers do admit to plead guilty to murder. One or two, not many.
I mean that's something as well that I wanted to dig into, really, because I mean when you read, again coming back to the press, you read some of the stories in there and you get a murderer, and by and large almost immediately the immediate thing is to plead not guilty, even if it seems to be the most obvious thing in the world that they are guilty. Is that something in law that forces that to happen? What to me it seems like...
a bit of saffron, just to give you a bit of colour.
If you're, if you know you've done it, there's lots of evidence stacked up against you. I'm sure that people know that the ultimate answer is going to find them guilty. Yeah. So, but it does seem the default position to say not guilty, doesn't it?
I think. You see, he's going to get life. You're going to get life. Sentence for murder, whatever. So whether you found guilty or plead guilty, you're going to get the same sentence.
Yeah.
So you may as well,
Is that right? So you don't get anything reduced for basically coming to the table and saying I'm...
The only thing that you've got the opportunity to do is to probably put your side over it to say why you've murdered this person and what the circumstances were and what that, and it may you always get life, whatever. It's mandatory life sentence, and I talk about that because people say, "Oh, well, it's not life; it's not it is." Because if you get convicted of murder, you'll be given a life sentence. Then the judge will determine how long you will serve in prison, how long you'll serve before you can be recommended for parole. So the recommendation may be 20 years, 25 years, or 30 years. So at that point, you can apply for parole. Doesn't mean you're going to get parole. Just means you can apply for it.
Yeah. And I'm just sorry for throwing all these questions at you, but I'm sure I'm not the only one that want to know the answers to some of these. Why doesn't life mean life?
But what it means is life license. So if you came out, let's say you've done your sentence to life, and the recommendation is you'll do 25 years, minimum 25 years in prison. You apply for parole, and you're given parole to come out. You're still on life licence. So any time you do anything wrong, you can be pulled back to prison. So that's it. So,
and again, this is probably my naivety and lack of understanding of it all, but if you do anything wrong, you're back in prison anyway, aren't you?
Yeah, but you can, even if you're suspected of breaching, what would have you be on licence, and you'd have conditions of your licence. You have to live in a certain place. You can't do this, you can't do that, can't do that. So there'll be some constraints. You'll be managed by offender managers, and if you even suspected of doing anything wrong, the licence can be revoked. So you could be, you could nick a Mars bar from Woolworths. That will revoke your licence.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously good reason for why it's done like it is, and me being a simple person, I don't get the terminology life when they come out in 25 years. To me, life should mean life, and I don't believe I'm probably the only one that thinks that either.
No, I mean the laws.
Don't get me wrong, you don't make the rules as it were, but I'm just trying to understand.
I think it's probably, it's one of those. I mean, he was given a recommendation of 35 years. So the chance of him ever coming out of prison are very, very slim. In fact, I mean, I'm sure he become very institutionalised, and a lot of, I'm not saying he has or will, but a lot of offenders, especially, they offend in prison as well, which then increases.
Right.
So they're offending prison, and then that in fact affects their potential ability to get parole because you haven't. And there is something they call a full life tariff now. So. And we'll talk about those in future instalments, episodes, because I've dealt with another a female who was given a full life tariff. She pleaded guilty, funny enough. Yeah, it's unusual, and so that means she never come out. And I don't know how many there is now, full life tariffs. I think it's less than 100. I'm guessing that because I knew there was about 40 when I retired. So that's a pure guess. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, so that's it. They're not coming out. And I've dealt with, and I would talk about other ones as well, like a murderer in prison, or 2 murderers have murdered a murderer, and they got full life tariffs as well. But we'll talk about those. We'll keep those in your app.
Well, I was going to say actually, because unfortunately, I mean, I'm finding this really interesting and having these discussions. But we are coming to the end of this particular show.
Okay.
But I think what we should do is continue this conversation, because I'm sure there's other viewers like myself who'd like to hear the end of this story and see how it all concluded and where it all come to. Yeah, and maybe we could enjoy some of this.
Yes.
This paella in the next episode, as it were. So
I'll tell you in the next episode how I was accused of planting the evidence for Philip Smith.
That'll be interesting. So I would imagine there's quite a bit of that goes on, but
not planting evidence.
No. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate it.
Have a great Christmas, and we'll see you next time.
We definitely will. We're back in the next episode.
It's smelling good.
It really does.
This is smelling good.
Yeah. I'll just get the director to turn the...
Yeah.